I'm Julian Beever, street artist.
When most people go to new cities, they're looking at the buildings, but half the time I'm looking at the sidewalk.
In this series, I'll be transforming pavements in cities around the world with my 3D chalk drawings.
Oh my gosh, you can actually see like the wings are raising up.
Plus, revealing the secrets of how I do it.
Even faster, you can pour on powder and rub it all in.
And tracking down the world's most prolific street artists.
There's nothing I feel an art teacher could teach me that the streets can't.
I'm in New York, one of the world's most influential street art capitals, for another 3-day 3D challenge. The city that never sleeps was the centre of subway graffiti culture in the 1970s, which inspired and launched the careers of, amongst others, the late Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Somewhere in amongst this huge city, I've got to find a spot to draw. What excites me about New York? Well, there's the obvious tall buildings and the famous landmarks, but there are lots of other smaller, grittier, everyday things here that I really like. For example, this Union Square subway station with thousands of New York people coming in and out every day. This is the sort of image I like, and this is the sort of drawing I want to do.
I take some photos of this subway entrance to use as a reference for my 3D chalk drawing. But although I've got my subject matter, I still need to find a good location to work. Whilst this pavement on 5th Avenue has just the right surface for chalk to adhere to, the crowds of people in this part of town would no doubt trample my drawing. So I jump into a cab to go location hunting and head for the Lower East Side of Manhattan.
It was so crowded on the west side that I've come east, and I found this park called Tompkins Square, which is in a very arty neighbourhood.
The East Village neighbourhood is considered to be a major contributor to American arts and culture. Bands like the New York Dolls, Blondie and Talking Heads played their first gigs in the area's clubs, and the East Village gallery scene helped galvanise American modern art. Tompkins Square is a much better location, but my chosen spot isn't exactly conventional.
The only place I can find with a good surface is here, in this kind of sports ground. The reason it's good is because the surface is flat and smooth, and it has a good texture for chalk to bite onto. I'm going to put my camera at the top of the tripod, really, so that I have quite a good downward view. I haven't completed this sketch yet, but that's my idea. And the first thing I'm going to do is decide the size of this subway entrance. I'm estimating the width of the subway station, which is going to be composed of tiles with little gaps between them running across. So I want to make a width which is going to be divisible by the combined width of the tiles and the combined width of the gaps, so that it fits exactly. So I don't want to choose a figure that doesn't divide easily. 7, 8. OK, 2, 7, 8, that will be all right. Have I done that right? 3 7s are 21. Plus the 5 is 6. 2, 6, 6. This is really going to be quite a challenging drawing because it's got a certain amount of exact geometry to it, with the steps and all the lines. And then furthermore, what is always difficult is doing human figures correctly. There's not much room for error on that. And then an added difficulty is then having some faces on these figures that I'd like to be recognisable. Because it's taken so long to find a spot, I've only got 2.5 days to do this in, so I'm going to have to rush it a bit, and I'm feeling a little bit apprehensive of whether I'll be able to finish it in time. Furthermore, there's the sun making it all a bit more oppressive. I can smell the tarmac melting here. The most difficult part at the beginning is really making decisions. How wide to make it, how long to make it. It's difficult because these are important decisions. They'll affect everything else over the next 3 days. This ground is now getting so hot I can't really keep my hands on it for very long. I'm sure if I put an egg on it, it would fry. I'm now going to do the vertical lines that come from those corners. We all know that horizontal lines go to a vanishing point on the horizon, but most people don't realise that vertical lines come to a vanishing point below our feet. Or in this case, below the camera, because that's where we're going to look from.
What is this masterpiece that you are creating?
Well, if you stand here, maybe it'll give you a better guess at what it is.
A skyscraper!
No, if you imagine it's going downwards rather than upwards.
Manhattan Island?
This is one sketch of it.
Oh, it's the subway!
Yes!
Took me a while.
Yeah, you did in the end. There isn't a lot to show for it after 2.5 hours, and I think probably tomorrow it will all start to speed up a bit.
But as always on the street, an unexpected obstacle comes my way.
A sportsman has just come up to me and told me that they're going to start a softball, baseball game here. I think what I'm going to do is cover this all up now, get it protected. At least that will stop people from running on it, I think.
My drawing will hopefully survive the night, but back in the 80s, when graffiti artists' work was destroyed by aggressive clean-up campaigns, New York street artists had to find different media. Michael DeFeo, aka the Flower Guy, chose wheat pasting. His flower posters have appeared on walls across New York City for the past 15 years.
I was warming up for a painting session in my studio, and in doing so, working with just black acrylic paint with like a fat brush, I did a variety of flowers and other sorts of like kind of childlike, naive images. And the one that I use now was in the center of the wall. It just jumped out from the others. For me, being a freshman in art school, I knew that at the time galleries weren't interested in showing the work by somebody like myself being so young. So I decided, instead of trying to deal with this uphill battle with approaching galleries, I decided just to put the work up in the streets where people can see it, and not just a specific audience that would attend a gallery or a museum, but everybody, every walk of life, every economic background, every race, religion, whatever, would encounter the work. And that, for me, was incredibly exciting. And, of course, that nobody could own it. That was very cool, too.
Following the success of his flowers, DeFeo has also been pasting abstract self-portraits around the city.
For the most part, I've been putting them in the meatpacking district. I've been putting them in Chelsea. It's a way for me to, I guess, connect with people in a way that I wouldn't otherwise be able to. People seem to really like them, and I think some people maybe read into them a little too much and think like, oh my God, Mike, are you okay? Like, is everything all right? And I've produced quite a bit of it, and I don't hang it all in the street. You know, I'm obviously not against showing my work in a gallery or selling my work. To do both at the same time is, you know, I guess a contradiction, and I like that. The flower I painted on 23rd Street back in the summer of 1994 was, at the time, the roof of the building I lived in. And so, of course, it was very easy access. I went up there one day and painted the background. The next day, I went up and painted the flower on top of it. I didn't get permission for it or anything. I just did it, you know? And much to my surprise, 13 years later, the thing is still there. And I can't drive by in a taxi or go by on foot without having to take at least a single glance up and make sure it's still residing up there 7 stories in 23rd Street.
I'm now going to start on probably the most difficult and important part of the whole thing, which is the human beings in this picture. They're the most important because, firstly, they really are a focal point. Your eye will go straight to the people in it. And secondly, it's important because they're difficult and hard to get right. You can see, because this character's so much nearer to us, he's a lot bigger than the other ones. And now that's a question of judgment of how much bigger is he. I'm now making a very rough outline of approximately where I think this figure should be. This is the head, and this is the body. You'll immediately see that this is very distorted. The head is almost as long as the body. The reason for that is that I'm trying to create an illusion of a high standing figure. It's not flat on the ground. This is a vertical figure we're doing. Now I'm going to look at the positioning of my second figure. She's going to be further down the steps, which will mean that she appears shorter than the other figure. I know this is something I will get right eventually. The only concern is how long will it take me to get it right eventually, because it's so much trial and error. No, does that look remotely like my man? Remotely, yes. Exactly, no. Having drawn it in a certain amount of colour, at least especially the black, it does look like the person I was aiming at. I'm going to go on to big challenge number 2, which is my second figure. This too I want to be recognisable, and I'm feeling very insecure that it will do, but I'm drawing her from behind looking back, which is a more complex position. Can you tell who either of them are?
I would... Woody Allen? The other one I have
The other one is only just started. You can't be expecting... Who?
Lisa.
Well, confidence boost. She's not looking downwards, so she won't be in deep shade. However, she is going to be wearing a hat, which will drop some shade over at least the top part of the face. I think it's probably the eyes which are the most important thing in capturing the spirit of the person. They say that they're the windows to the soul, and I think when you're doing a portrait, that's probably true.
So is that Woody Allen catching the subway?
Could be.
Oh, Eliza Minnelli. Well, you know, the artwork's believable, but the idea of them catching the subway like the rest of us is simply not credible.
I've begun to actually block in some colours and tones now. It's no longer just an outline trace. So I've put that very dark backdrop in, the underground station, and for the moment I've done the figures, the human beings on the platform, just as black silhouettes.
I can see somebody that looks like Woody Allen coming out.
That's right.
I don't know about that lady with the hat, but...
Any familiar faces there?
Not really.
I'm beginning to think you have to be over 30 to recognise any of them. That's my excuse. Obviously, when you do a picture of this size, quite a lot of the time you're just colouring in. But at the same time, it gives me a rest from all the mental acrobatics necessary for doing things like human figures in perspective. It's nice to do some simple stuff.
I just can't believe how I look through the camera. It really looked like a train station, like people walking down there. I still can't believe how I look through the camera. It looks so amazing, man.
Well, thanks for all your interest. It's been nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you. I just can't believe how that looked through the camera.
Movie. Yeah. Thank you. But it's nearing the end of the day, and once again, I've got competition for the pitch.
We're going to be playing a softball game here at 6.
Right, so it's now 10 to 6.
So,
right.
By all means, we'll just stay out of your way.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you letting us know. And thank you. Thank you for stopping us. OK, I'm getting this covered up now before the sports people start whacking balls around. I'm putting cardboard on first. This is a kind of insurance. It's all right. So you're supposed to be feeding it to me?
It's 6 a.m. on day 3, and with only 12 hours to finish my drawing before the baseball players take over, I'm making an early start.
So everything's still there. It starts straight away. The baseball players are coming back again at about 6 o'clock, so that gives me a pretty tight deadline. That's my main fear. Another concern is that it might be extremely hot again, which can slow things down. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Da 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 da. Come to the cabaret. How long is it going to last? Well, who can say until it rains. I'm trying to keep the whole thing in a not too great a range of colours. I'm more and more doing my drawings in that way, I think, now, and it makes you concentrate on form. I'm trying to make his hair look a bit tousled. When I first did it, it all looked too well-groomed, and I don't associate that person with that. His hair's a bit like mine, a total mess. Oh, I'm such an old, groaning, stiff old guy. I think I'm taking on the personality of my character here. Stooped, in some sort of angst. Although mine's more physical, I think his is more mental.
I'm late for my Tai Chi class, because I had to see. Oh, that's great!
Can you see?
So you're doing a 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional piece.
Yes.
And they're coming out of the subway.
You've got it.
Woody Allen.
Correct.
Liza with a Z.
Yeah.
And Andy Warhol.
Well, you know you're New Yorkers, don't you?
I do, but I don't know why. So now I've got to go and bow out. Excuse me. Continue on.
Did you know there was a subway at Tompkins Square?
No.
Well, there is now.
Wow.
Anyone there you know?
Yes,
Personally?
Woody Allen and Liza Minnelli.
They're friends of yours, are they?
Close friends.
Good.
Liza Minnelli's the best.
Good. Well, that's
Take
nice.
care. Wonderful work.
Just trying to recover from the heat. It's just too hot out there. So I'm really going to have to organise some shade. In a way, it's a disadvantage because you have one part of the drawing in shade and one part that isn't, so it's harder to visualise things. But there isn't really much choice in these conditions.
How are you going to save your art?
Just by photographing it.
Or just photograph?
Yeah.
It's great.
Does it say New York to you?
It's well, you know, all of them are from here. Liza's a little overdressed for the subway.
No, not really.
You'll make it. It's going to get hot today, though. What time did you start?
It's going to get hot. This isn't hot.
Not yet.
Oh.
About 2, you'll get the peak.
Oh, gosh. I'm glad I've still got another 4 or 5 hours to go. I'll have a result. The cake will be baked. How much of the icing I can put on remains to be seen. Well, I'm just putting a bit of detail into this wall now. I suppose this could be considered a certain amount of icing. I'm trying to show that this wall is pretty shabby. I'm giving it a bit of guts. That's what I feel it needed, some guts. Let's have some very old graffiti here. Trouble is, I don't know how to do graffiti.
Someone who does know all about graffiti is New York's most notorious female spray paint artist, Lady Pink. She started in the 1970s, when graffiti moved from the streets to the subways.
I started writing graffiti at the age of 15 because my very first boyfriend was arrested for writing graffiti and sent to go live in the old country. And I was so heartbroken, I mourned his loss. I started writing his graffiti name all over the junior high school and fell in love with the thrill, the adventure, which is very seductive for a teenager. And I met about 300 graffiti writers at a time. And these were some of the boys that actually went and did subway trains. And that was the whole focus of our graffiti days back in the early 80s. I would sneak out of my house at midnight or so, jump out the window with a bag of paint, and go and meet my friends and go to some ghetto neighborhood in New York where they parked the trains, and we would spend all night long painting and trying to make something beautiful and to leave by dawn and make it home, preferably before my mother woke up to go to work. I became the only female out of approximately 10,000 guys. And I proved to the guys and to the girls that, you know, a female can do anything that a guy can do. We were coming from that era, the feminist 70s, saying, I can do it all. You don't need to have a penis to climb a ladder. How dare you tell me I can't write graffiti? What do you need, special equipment to use a spray can? The work that I was doing as a teenager was always our names. It's a cry from, you know, someone that lives in a really huge city of millions and millions, so someone knows you exist. I started exhibiting in art galleries and doing fine art around the same time that I started painting on the subway trains. Being a female and being a novelty made me the only girl available when they were setting up one of the first exhibits. The subways just were too dangerous to go paint. The penalties got a little bit more severe, and there were creeps going around just destroying the beautiful artwork on the subway trains. I slowly just went into the galleries, into the museums and the civilized exhibit spaces with cultured people with manners and all. And I abandoned the streets. Didn't really care for my own people. So I went in a big circle, and I've come back to doing public art. I do a lot of free donated walls to set an example, to inspire other artists. I can't just keep it to the cultured and the wealthy. That's not our purpose for having painted. The kind of work that I'm doing now, you know, I put a heavy message in there with simple and cute images, like a little bunny and then a pink tank squishing it. And it's a war machine that is just, you know, wrecking havoc and mayhem, and it is the innocent that suffer. The bunny represents the innocent, and now I'm working on a ferry, but she's looking at a burning city and mayhem. You know, our president doesn't want to bend when it comes to saving the environment, and I think that is what's going to reflect on my painting. To me, there are ferries, and the ferries are not happy. I think street art is very important, that will keep our civilization from becoming stagnant, from becoming colorless. Create your environment to suit yourself. Twist the street signs and weld stuff up to the walls. You're not hurting anyone, it's just artwork. I definitely welcome people defying authority and being rebels and keeping it alive, keeping the spirit alive.
Really, what's this all about here?
Well, this is my tribute to New York.
I love it.
New York life, really.
I love it.
And which station are you going to put in?
Well, where are we now?
Yeah?
Tompkins Square.
But there's no station here.
What's this?
It is now, huh?
Exactly. I think to economize on time, I'm going to leave these steps the same ground color as everything else. Hands, I find, are one of the most tricky, difficult things. It's a nightmare, which is why I shove the most of the hands in the pockets. There's another big challenge coming up there as well. There is another crowd of baseballers that have arrived. There's always a threat of a very hard ball hitting me on the back of the head. Meanwhile, I'm drawing in the second rail on the new, shortly to be open Tompkins Square metro line.
Wow, this is amazing. This is beautiful.
How long are you thinking about the work before you do it?
Researching, getting the people's faces, checking out what they look like on the internet, practicing sketching them, deciding the positions to put them in that situation. All that took quite a bit of time, and I did quite a few practice sketches.
When is this station going to be fully operational?
It will be operational at 5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock? Well,
yeah.
That's good, because we needed a subway stop right
Well,
now.
if you come back here, you'll be able to be one of the first customers. Right, sign, yellow blobs. Notice, please, that they're not in a straight line. So if mine are not, it's not because I got it wrong. If we do consider this a cake, I think the cake is pretty much completed. I've done a little bit of icing. I won't be able to get all the icing on.
But having iced the cake as much as I can, and with the baseball players looming on the horizon, it's time to reveal Tompkins Square's new subway station to the East Villagers.
So come on, over this way, where the three-dimensional picture will be happening on monitor any second now. Yep, this way. Come on over. There we go. There's the three-dimensional picture, all for you. Thanks for having us in your neighbourhood. It's been a real treat. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
This must be one of the toughest drawings I've ever done, with a whole series of setbacks. It's the first time I've ever tried to draw famous faces anamorphically, and I'm delighted that the people in Tompkins Square could recognise them and that I can leave them their own subway station for the first time. Now, I'm going to hand it back to the baseball team. There's always something new in this game, and this is the first baseball eviction I've had.